Hi, it's Kirby Summers. Today is February 7th, 2025, and it's another day, another lawsuit against Sean Puffy, Diddy Combs, Love, whatever he wants to call himself. I mean, and all of these are rather shocking. He is currently facing about 100 civil lawsuits. They all sound eerily the same, which is different from the federal case against him, for which he is incarcerated and is in the Metropolitan Detention Center, which is where Ghislaine Maxwell was. And before I get started, I want to thank those of you who have taken the time to like and subscribe. And also, special thanks to Marcia D., Alicia I., and Ian F., who took the trouble and the time to go on over to my website and submit a one-time contribution as a super thanks. And I want to thank everyone else who has done the same, either on this platform or on my website, where clearly I get to keep about 90% versus the shy of 50 that I get to keep on this platform, although any help is very much appreciated. And so the reason I want to share this thing with you regarding Combs is because this allegation appears to have happened in a nightclub. So, in front of other people in a public space. However, there is information that I had in fact written about, which again is on my Substack, about this sort of behavior happening in public spaces, commencing from a long time ago. Um, okay, in any event, so he is accused of SAing a 17-year-old boy in a nightclub. This is a brand new lawsuit. The lawsuit claims that Diddy was offered to go to the club for network opportunities. Now, again, he's only 17 years old. Um, Again, and the lawsuit is filed by Tony Busby. It lists the victim as John Doe because, nobody who is a victim wants to have their name spread across mainstream media and, of course, talked about, because then they are potentially targeted and it could expose them to further harm. And the suit claims that Combs offered Doe a record deal and studio opportunities, um, prompting this person to then be given a drink. It was the Ciroc vodka that he was promoting, and that after drinking it, Doe began feeling a little faint, and that afterwards was completely knocked out. In the lawsuit, Doe woke up to find Combs fondling his person in a private space, and then threatened to ruin his chances in the industry if he dared to say no. So ultimately, Doe escaped the venue without reporting the incident for fear of reprisal. However, the lawsuit targets multiple companies linked to Combs, claiming, and I believe rightly so, as we've seen through the other lawsuits, that they helped protect him from his alleged wrongdoing by failing to adopt appropriate measures to prevent this type of conduct. Now, we know that he was arrested in September of 2024, and he is at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn on charges of racketeering, S, transportation, and transportation for the purposes of, let's call it, not legal S activities. The trial is set for May the 5th. However, what I want to remind you, and some of you may already know from being members of my newsletter, is that there was a very famous club, and you may have heard about it. It's Studio 54. And I write a little bit about it in my article, The Jarecki Family Exposed Part 2, which also includes information, by the way, on Alec Baldwin, who is related by marriage to Justin Bieber, who has been photographed recently looking very unwell. So, let's keep our fingers crossed that Justin Bieber will find a way to recover and pull himself out of this. So back in the day, in the 1970s, there was a studio called Studio 54. It was a very famous nightclub. Um, it's pretty much a club that was created by Steve Rubell, whose father was connected to the mob, and Ian Schrager. Or perhaps, frankly, it was Ian Schrager whose family was connected to the mob and Steve Rubell. And what I want to say about Studio 54, which perhaps may offer you more context, since I have been talking about who created the CBS station and how that's connected to Clive Davis, and how the person who created CBS, meaning the television station, William Paley, which had a subdivision, the record division, of which Clive Davis would one day become president. Well, Studio 54 was opened in a former CBS studio. And you know what? I think that there's a reason for that. I am discovering that certain properties, whether it be New York or LA or elsewhere, continue to be used by the same, let's call it the same organization, or cutout, or whatever we want to give it, generation after generation. So initially, people thought it strange that Studio 54 opened on a street where there was little traffic as far as club goers, where the neighborhood at the time was really on the down. But as the information continues to be collected regarding, let's say, CBS, its connection to Clive Davis, its connection to the intelligence apparatus. I've spoken about how the owner and the creator of CBS went on to co-found CIA, which is the intelligence, one of 27 intelligence agencies in the United States. Well, this club surprisingly opened in a former CBS office, which I thought was really unusual given what we know today. So back in the day, there was free S for everyone. It was literally on the menu along with the white substance. Grace Jones was interviewed for an article in Elle magazine that because the space was originally a theater, there was a balcony area that was more private. And there, she said, you could disappear into the shadows and get up to whatever. And then above that was the rubber room. And it wasn't named after what people wore in their private parts, meaning the men. This was pre-AIDS and nobody was using that. It was called this because of the easy to clean surfaces intentionally installed by Rubell and Schrager. And this was used for like ORGIES. So like there were people who, if you thought the outfit worn or almost worn by Kanye West, now known as Ye, his so-called wife, was obscene, well, that's kind of what a lot of people wore or didn't wear at Studio 54. This area was described as an S pit And then, these two, Steve Rubell and Ian Schrager, when they were basically asked in different interviews, well, did you guys design this intentionally to be an S pit? And their answer was, yeah, we did. Now, what a lot of people don't know is that it had a secret entrance. We've talked a lot about the tunnels under Hugh Hefner's mansion that Bernie Kornfeld built. I think I'm the only one talking about the fact that Bernie Kornfeld, who also had a harem of young girls, similar to the harem of girls that later Jeff would have, and the harem that certain other people who perhaps you may know and perhaps you may not know, but these mini harems were a staple and perhaps continue to be a staple. And the harems of these people like Bernie Kornfeld, I'll just use as an example, were girls who were not beautiful enough to become A-list actresses or A-list models. Therefore, if, or even like Playboy bunnies. So if they didn't have the looks to match helping them become stars or famous because of their ability to pose nude or be put into a television show like Baywatch, for example, they were put into this B tier with people like Bernie Kornfeld, who had mini mansions. And there were many of these mini mansions with girls who aspired to become models and or actresses, but instead they became um, currency, currency used by these powerful men to get favors. Now, to get back to the private entrance of Studio 54, on Thursdays, it was considered Beautiful People Night, and it was favored again by the so-called modeling agencies, many of which were fronts for transportation rings, frankly. Um, and Saturday was when the SNL cast, so Saturday Night Live, would sneak in after the show by climbing up the fire escape to the fifth floor of the club. Then they would be ushered into the balcony dubbed the Rubber Room, and I've already described what the Rubber Room was all about. Uh, because again, the surfaces were washable. So like there have been clubs where, you know, doing things that are normally done in private has happened before. It has happened repeatedly. In some ways, I'm glad this is coming to the surface via these private lawsuits, civil lawsuits against Sean Diddy Combs, because I'm going to share some stories. So I used to go to clubs, and I would be often confronted by a person that I did not know who would ask me to join him at the VIP lounge where a famous person wanted to meet me and offer me a glass of champagne. Oh, just come on over. He wants to meet you. You'll sit, you'll have a glass of champagne, no harm, no foul. And I was always at the time when I was going to the clubs and I was being propositioned to go meet this person or go meet this person. I didn't really care about celebrity. I'm a New Yorker. In New York, we see celebrities all the time. I'd already met a lot of celebrities. I didn't think anything about them was any different from anyone else. And I always said no. What I did not know at the time was that had I said yes, how many of those celebrities with their offers of let's just sit down and have champagne, which by the way, I don't drink. I don't drink at all. I don't like drinking. I tasted it when I was very young. I thought it was tasted horrible, and I just never wanted to taste it again. Therefore, thank goodness, I never learned how to drink. But anyway, how many of these guys who invited me or had somebody sent over, their procurer, right, to invite me to have a glass of champagne, how many of those glasses were probably like something that would have knocked me out. And I'm thinking now, when I look back on all of those invitations that thankfully I declined, how many of those would have drugged me and or aid me? I mean, like, just it's staggering, and it's like I didn't even know about this secondary problem. I just thought, oh, they're just accustomed to having women fawn over them. I'm not going to fall for it. I'm not another woman that's going to fawn over somebody because this person is a big time actor or a big time comedian or a big time singer. I wasn't fazed, but I'm glad that I refrained from joining somebody in their, let's say, VIP room surrounded by their homies, right? And who knows what would have happened to me. In any event, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on the latest lawsuit against Sean Diddy Combs. The fact that, another 17-year-old boy is stepping forward saying, hey, I went to this club. I was told it was a good sort of like meet and greet opportunity for me. I'm an up and coming singer. I aspire to be a singer. And then this happens to him as he is given Ciroc. And by the way, he is no longer representing Ciroc, right? And before he made Ciroc popular, and it was really him who made it popular, nobody wanted to drink that anywhere. It was just considered the lowest of the low. So in many ways, he did put that company, uh, he gave it some clout within the club industry, the music industry, the people who party and spend a lot of money. That aside, um, I mean, really, do we believe anything Sean Combs says? Clearly, his attorneys have gone on the record to say that everything is not true and that this will be proven to be not true in a court of law. Let's see what happens. All right, guys, do me a favor, like this and subscribe. Bye.